The Declaration of Independence does not exist, does not come up in a philosophical vacuum. Hello. Hello. Restart video. Why aren't you working? No, that's not good. I really want to write something. Let's see if it works. I don't like writing on Oh, it works. Yeah. Works enough. Alright. I don't know why that's there. It's
Disconnected.
Alright. We're going to leave the realm of politics for a moment and go into the realm of philosophy. This era is something that I know you all studied in world history. It's the age of enlightenment. Which I know you studied in world history, or at least you were supposed to study in world history. The Enlightenment, an era of belief in the possibilities of science and reason over those of revelation and faith. A lot of belief in humanity, etc., etc. It's a belief in science and reason. Not only in science, but also in the realm of kind of human affairs. One subset of these Enlightenment thinkers are the so-called state of nature philosophers. And the state of nature philosophers asked a very simple question. What is human life like in nature? Before society. Before society appeared, what was human life like? That if you could remove all of the institutions of society, government, family, everything, and return a human being to his natural state, what would that look like? And the answer that they kind of came up with was that in the state of nature, human beings had three rights. Life, liberty, and property. That they theorized that if you're living in the state of nature, you have a right to your own life. If Naomi wants to walk down to the river, take her clothes off and jump in it, does she have the liberty to do so?
Yeah.
Yes! Nothing and no one's going to stop her in a state of nature. If Deontay plants a tree, let's use Fred. If Fred plants a tree, when those apples grow, who has a right to the apples? Fred. That he has the right to the sweat of his own brow. He took nature and improved it. He took the apple and he pressed it into cider. That's his cider. That's his right. So in a state of nature, say these philosophers, you have a right to life, a right to liberty, and a right to your property. Now, what's the obvious problem? Hey, Fred, come over here for a minute. I want everyone to look at Fred's nice big apple tree. That's a nice apple tree. Look at Fred's big jug of cider over there, holding it in his hand.
Hello, Father.
Not your father.
You like my tree?
I killed your father. Huh? It is a very nice tree. I would really hate for something to happen to that tree, Fred, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that tree.
Yeah, how about do that cider?
No.
Yeah, Fred.
I think Above my chair.
Nah.
My chair. Yeah.
Cider.
No.
What's the problem here?
You want to take my cider away?
I want to take your cider, and guess what?
His right.
No,
I'm a hell of a lot bigger than Fred.
survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest.
Oh, my mom always tells me that everyone.
If we stay in this state of nature, does Fred really have, he has a right to his property, but if I come along and I'm bigger and nastier,
Will he be able to defend?
will he be able to defend it? And the answer is no. So, what these state of nature philosophers said was okay. We leave the state of nature and we institute society, whose job it is to make sure that I don't beat the crap out of Fred every time I want to drink apple cider. If you take all three, life, liberty, and property, and assume this is one whole, 100% or something, a pie chart, what these philosophers say, they say, we as human beings give up a portion of our rights to live in society. That we say, okay, we're going to give up part of our right to life, part of our right to liberty, part of our right to property, because we have an understanding that we would like to live in a society where Fred can keep his own frickin' apple cider. But which came first? Society or the rights? Which came first? The rights came first. So then, the question gets asked, all right, where did these rights come from? Where did those rights, life, liberty, and property, come from if they existed before society and well before government? Well, how do they come from society if they exist before society? Where do these rights, where must these rights, say these state of nature philosophers, come from?
You.
Does Fred's right to property come from himself?
The people.
Wasn't there?
What
change?
people?
The person before the fact that
It was the change between
the enlightenment.
His instinct. That's an interesting statement.
Natural.
I would almost argue that it is certainly my instinct to bop you on the head and take your apple cider. That's my instinct.
True.
Right?
No.
Where do these rights come from? I heard someone say an interesting little N word.
Nature.
Nature, and who made nature?
God.
God.
That's 232.
God. God. Not the Bible. God. In this setup, philosophically, every human being is born with these rights because they were created by, not by God. That means by the God of nature, by the God of the universe. George Washington called it providence. It's not specifically Christian because a lot of these Enlightenment thinkers were deists. A deist.
I believe in deities.
A deist is the easiest way to explain this is a deist is God the watchmaker, right? In the sense that, according to deism, and a lot of the founders were deists, it's this Enlightenment Christianity, really. Deists said, pretty much, that God created the universe like a watchmaker makes a watch. Anyone ever see the inside of an old watch?
Yeah.
It's very, very complicated. There's springs and wheels and gears and very complicated in this little itty bitty thing. And then God, what does the watchmaker do? He builds the watch and then he How does he make it work? How do you make a watch go?
A magnet.
You wind it.
Oh.
The watchmaker winds the watch, and then what does he have to do after that?
Watch it go.
Nothing, right? If once the watchmaker winds the watch, there's no work left to be done. Just like a watchmaker winds a watch and leaves it alone, deists saw God's working in the universe in that way. God created the universe, set up its laws, and then stepped back and said, all right, universe,
Do what you do.
do what you do. So this is why when you read about the founding, you see a lot of talk about nature's God, the God of nature. Because it's not nature like a babbling brook and little cute does sipping water out of it. It's not Bambi nature. It's nature's God in the sense of God created this complicated universe and set it in motion. All that stuff. So, when the founders say God, that's what we mean, God-given rights. Rights that are yours before society was in existence. Rights that are yours before government is in existence. Which makes, here's the crux of the question. Everything here has been leading up to this. Here's the question. What then is the purpose of government? Who thinks they want an answer to that? What is, if this is your philosophical belief that human beings have these inborn, God-given rights to life, liberty, and property that existed before society, that exist before government, what is the purpose, Lisbeth, of government?
I don't know for sure, but isn't it to keep like order?
To keep order. What do you mean?
Like, even though they're free, there might be some people who go against that idea and want to have like a government so that it doesn't get out of control and people don't stray away from the original thought.
Lisbeth is scaring the crap out of me.
I was gonna sing the one note.
Lisbeth is scaring crap out of me. I'm sorry, Lisbeth, but you are. Why? Because Lisbeth is describing the function of government as to keep everyone in line.
Oh, the song.
When I see government keeping people in line,
Dictatorship.
I think of people goose-stepping down the street.
Oh, never mind, I was thinking that.
And I see people all dancing the same dance to the great leader in North Korea.
Well, like Hindu.
I hope is the purpose of government to keep us all in line. Not, at least not according to this. Not according to this. So then what is? Beware. Anybody who says, I want political power to organize human beings. So in this setup, in natural rights theory, what is the purpose of government?
To protect our rights.
Beautiful, thank you. The purpose of government, according to this standard, is to protect these rights. Government exists to protect rights that you already have. Now let's kind of get back to this pie chart. We understand that any government, by definition, is going to take some of our life, liberty, and property rights away. The trick is finding out how much. How much government is too much government? Is a question that the founders are going to ask, and Americans are going to ask, and Americans are still asking. How much is too much? Do we want I think we all agree, eating vegetables is a good idea, right? You should eat vegetables. Should it be the law to eat the proper number of servings of vegetables?
Yes.
No.
Why? Why should it be good? Why should it be, Eddie?
Because it would help you overall.
So Eddie's perspective, look, Eddie's belief here has a long pedigree. Eddie's belief is that government's job is to do what's best for everyone. And if that's the case, why not have a government that requires you to eat 3 servings of vegetables a day?
That's great.
Everybody likes.
The people allergic to broccoli.
But it's good for you!
You have allergies.
Mister. Oh.
Hang on, I'm gonna work my way around the room, go ahead.
Because they're supposed to, okay, so the purpose of the government is to protect your rights and your rights are life, liberty, and property.
Alright.
And you have the liberty to do what you want. So that's why you can or cannot eat them of vegetables.
So you're saying that the government has no right to dictate that I must eat healthy,
Yeah, because you have the liberty.
to not eat healthy?
Yeah, you have the liberty.
Okay. Should the government have the right to tell you have to wear a helmet when you're out bike riding? So I submit, let me get some other thoughts, go ahead.
They have the right to tell you in order, but they shouldn't have the right to enforce it.
Well, government by definition is force. A law is always backed by what? Force, otherwise it's your mom's suggestion, right? That you can't go to jail for disobeying mom. You can get, look, I'll put it to you very simply. Let's say I think, if I break a law, I get killed for it, because the power of the state has a monopoly on violence. If I decide I don't feel like paying taxes this year, so I don't pay my taxes. The IRS finds out, they send people to arrest me. I sit up there in my top window with a rifle. Guess what? To defend my right not to pay taxes, guess what? If I'm up there and the IRS tries to arrest me, and I'm up there with my high-powered rifle, guess what's going to happen to me? They will shoot me.
But why would you have to write about it?
But I don't want to be arrested. My point is, yeah, but you don't have a right to shoot at police officers. My point is that if government makes a law, Aurelio, by definition it has lethal force behind it. Now, whether the government chooses to employ lethal force, that ain't up to me. That's up to them. So, the government can say, yes, you should eat 4 servings of vegetables a day. But at this point, at least, it does not have the right to enforce that belief. Yeah.
Shouldn't they make like limits and like choose what's more important depending on like?
Yeah, and that's what politics is. That's an excellent point that Danielle makes, because that's what politics is. Where's the middle ground? Because what we have just done here, what we have just seen, is the fundamental dividing line in American history between 2 conceptions of liberty. I'm going to call it Eddie's conception because he's the one that said it. I'm going to call it Steph's conception. Steph elucidated, said, proposed what's called a negative theory of rights. That Stephanie is free when the government does what?
Free church.
You tell me.
I am free when they, if they're a government, right, if they want to be my government, right, they're supposed to protect my rights as in liberty, life, and property.
So the freer you are, the bigger government is are you freer or less free?
Less.
No, you're freer.
Freer the bigger government is?
Less.
Or the smaller? No, I phrased that poorly. Let me ask you again. Your freedom is predicated on government doing what?
Letting you be free.
As little as possible. That's negative freedom. Negative freedom is I'm free because the government stays the hell out of my life. That's negative freedom. I don't want the government telling me that I gotta wear a helmet. I don't want the government telling me I gotta wear a seatbelt. I don't want the government telling me I gotta eat my broccoli. I don't want the government picking my pocket for all sorts of money, for all sorts of things. That negative liberty restricts the power of government because you're freer the smaller government is. That's negative liberty. This is the liberty of the founding. I'm going to get to your question in a second. If we look at the Bill of Rights, all of the Bill of Rights are lists of stuff that the government cannot do. The Bill of Rights purposely makes the government stay out of Steph's life as much as possible. The government cannot tell her how to pray, cannot tell her what to say, cannot restrict her right to a free press, cannot restrict her right to assemble, cannot restrict her right to petition the government, cannot restrict her right to bear arms. The government cannot put soldiers in her house. The government cannot search her house without a warrant. The government cannot try her twice for the same crime. The government cannot punish her in a cruel and unusual way. The government cannot restrict her right to a jury. Cannot. Negative liberty. It's keeping government as far out of Steph's life as possible. Now, Jill, what was your question?
Two. So doesn't that mean like it's inversely proportional within people and government?
Yes.
Okay.
That the more freedom you have, according to this theory, the smaller the government, the greater your sphere of liberty.
And my second one is, why did the government kind of limit that with what you said about how people were making laws saying that government can like have to stay out of
Right.
Stephanie's way and people's way? Then why did they like not enforce that when women or black people tried to get their rights and stuff?
I'm a little, what do you mean?
Like when they were, like when black people or women tried to like want to work and want to do stuff for themselves.
Was there ever laws against women working?
But didn't people did not want it?
Yeah.
So then when women did fight for that,
Right.
then why did they send them to prison? And
Because they were breaking specific laws. A woman didn't go to prison for wanting the right to vote. A woman went to prison for blocking, an intersection. Okay? A woman would go to prison for interfering with the operation of, that you can't walk into, a government building and disrupt operations. That's illegal. You can no one ever threw women in jail for peaceably protesting. You have to get thrown in jail for something. Okay? That abolitionists don't get thrown in jail for being abolitionists. Abolitionists get thrown in jail for breaking laws. So there's a law that has to be broken for you to end up in prison. Right? You're not... Maybe we're talking about two separate things here.
probably.
Can you give me an example?
When Anthony was Anthony, when she was in front of Washington D.C. and she was just protesting, but and there were a bunch of other women with her.
Right.
But doesn't that mean she wasn't breaking laws? She was just
So did she get thrown in prison
Yeah.
for that?
And then
Yeah, we're standing in front of the White House.
That's different. You can't disrupt. When you protest, you cannot disrupt. You can't disrupt commerce. You can't disrupt the function of... Now, I don't know the particulars of the case, but what we're saying, so if she did get thrown in prison, that's a violation of her rights.
exactly that's
Oh,
what
for trespassing.
For traffic. For traffic. That they were
For stopping traffic. Oh, okay. That's...
They were, they still charged them.
Okay, I mean, look, when we talk about theory, it is sometimes different from practice. So let's let's address Jill's question. Why, Jill, do you try to purposely make a government with as few powers as possible?
So you can have more freedom.
So you have more freedom. The more powers a government has, the more likely it is for you not to be able to exercise your freedom. The bigger government, in this theory, the theory of negative rights, that you have more freedom, the smaller government is. Now, why are we packing up? There is still 5 minutes left. The opposite view, positive liberty, is kind of what Eddie was saying. Eddie was saying, basically, that that government's job is to help you fulfill your potential as a human being. That's a government that says, hey, let's have public schools. Hey, let's pay for old people's medicine. Hey, let's have free college for everyone. That's positive liberty. This is a fundamental dividing line in American politics. Do you because you can't believe in both. It's impossible. Where you meet is politics. But philosophically, I'm going to leave you with this. Philosophically, either government should be restricted in its power so that you can live your life with as little interference as possible, or government's role is to help you, the citizen, achieve life, liberty, and happiness. Whichever side you happen to fall on, if you really think it through, and if you come to an honest conclusion that I believe in negative liberty, or I believe in positive liberty, I will tell you if you're a conservative or a liberal, a Republican, or a Democrat. Because it is a fundamental dividing line in American culture and politics. Either the smaller government is better because the more authority and liberty you have, the better, or government is better helping you navigate your way through life. The more government, the better. Where's the philosophical neutral ground? We can compromise, that's called politics. But philosophically, if you're intellectually consistent, you pick one or the other. I would ask you to really think about this a lot.
I'm positive, guys. I'm positive. I lied.
So what is that, Democrat?
I'm telling you. Because I don't think either one of you have truly thought out the implications and counter arguments of what you believe.
What if you have big feelings about it?
Philosophically, you have to fall on one side. Either government mostly hurts people or government mostly helps people.